How's it going, everybody? This is Mighty Z of Capital Chaos TV, and I have gum in my mouth. That's rude. It's not rude to talk to people with gum in your mouth?
Not if you're wearing a Deicide shirt.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
What about you? Do you agree with me that it's rude to talk to people with gum in your mouth?
No, not at all. In fact, I eat and talk all the time. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Right. Big wads of bubblicious on the side of the mouth. Just cut. It's cool.
See.
It's cool.
So 2004, that would make it almost 10 years of SpiralArms, right?
That would be almost 10 years. It'll be like 10 years in April, and but that's 10 years with some gaps in between, and a lot of things happen. You know, a lot of life happened. A lot of different bands, and for everybody, did different stuff.
But you guys, this is both of you guys' main bands at the moment, right?
This is it. We're all in right now. All the cards are in the center of the table, right? I mean,
Yeah. It has been. It's just been, you know, when you're playing in so many different little projects, this has been our main project.
yeah,
But
in the heart for sure.
when things happen, you just got to roll with it. So, you know, if you get an opportunity somewhere else, even though it's not your main focus, you're like, hey, I got to go do this real quick. And then you end up spending, 6 months when you thought it was going to be 3 weeks.
Or 2 years. Yeah. I mean, everyone did something different, but, we all came from different bands. Obviously, we're cats like that. So, but I did the Forbidden thing for a little bit, and it's not really easy to stop that train unless it stopped. So,
Yeah, and that
and then you had White Witch Canyon too with these guys. That was a good year too. So.
Right, and that was a good opportunity for us. Tim and I went out and we kind of bonded, and it was a good experience to just go out on the road and do the thing like that. And we kind of talked about the Spiral and did a little strategic planning. So when we got back and when we were all in one room, we kind of had a plan, and here we are now.
So it was technically born of the ashes of systematic and man-made God, no?
Yes, technically it definitely was spat out of those ashes. And we went into it real quick, man. And it literally, Tim and I started doing this, we thought it was going to be Man-Made God 2 with a new singer, which was a complete delusion of grandeur, because there was the two totally different bands. As soon as Tim started singing that stuff, it was like, no. And then we started writing stuff, and it's like, oh, yeah. But even then, there was no official direction, just lots of effort, and just didn't really know what we were going to do yet. We just did it. You know what I mean? So,
right.
and that happens sometimes with bands where they get out there and they start running, and they don't. All of a sudden they're in the middle of the fucking street, and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And with us, we made some really great songs, but they were just kind of a little bit here, a little bit there. So that's what I think happened when the White Witch Canyon experience happened, is when these guys went out and kind of like rolled around in the dirt, as Tim likes to say, and we're in that culture and playing a lot of killer stoner rock shows and with really good underground bands. I think they came back to it dirty. And more hair on the whole thing. I mean, their beards were longer and shit.
We were surrounding ourselves Saint Vitus, and you know what I mean, like just real fuzzed out stuff. And that whole stoner scene's really cool and relaxed, and it's just about hanging out and jamming, and right, nobody's tripping on anything.
So that rubbed off on him.
Yeah.
That rubbed off on him.
Let's just do what we want. You know what I mean? It made us kind of relaxed a little bit. Like
shoulders went down. Everything. And that's true. No, he's right. And that's what made us. When you merge that with who we are and where we came from and the metal background, that really every guy in the band's got a metal background. And we didn't come out of fall out of the tree fucking hippies or anything. Tim's got a lot of music in his background. His dad was a musician growing up and stuff like that, so he came from that kind of. We all, he's in Vicious Rumors, and
right.
The other guys all played fucking.
Who?
Yeah.
They you were the only bald guy in Vicious Rumors. I take it.
That's true. That's true.
Didn't they have another bald guy after you though?
No, that's not true. Tommy Sisko is now he's bald as a cucumber. So
nice.
Just me and you. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Related.
And I'm just wearing a wig.
Thank God for Carrie King.
Actually,
let me tell you about it.
I got two wigs.
Thank you, Carrie, for helping us all come out.
I'll get your look back to you.
This is your third full length, right?
No, okay. Technically, yes, and technically, no. We did
demos.
Yeah, we did a bunch of demos. Like Tim and I had immediately, like I said, we were running in the street and we were recording stuff like on his little 16 track, just with hands and running across the board, no automation and shit. So we were doing that, and that stuff got recorded. We recorded a bunch of material. Then we got other drummers in the band, and all of a sudden we had a lot of this stuff, these demos that weren't really getting the job done.
Okay.
So we put them all together, and there's a lot of great drummers that played on there, but it wasn't really cohesive.
I see.
Right.
So
All
this is
written
your
at different times, and you know.
first album as a cohesive unit.
Second, because that we did do Highest Society, and that did come out in Europe, and you can get on iTunes now, and that was pretty cohesive. Different guitar player, Tim's little big brother, Greg Narducci, played rhythm on that record, and he was with us for the beginning of this record. So
We love you, Greg.
yeah, we love Greg.
Yeah.
He's a Narducci, so. But yeah, so I mean, you know, there's been 2 consistent records, and Greg's a part of this record too because he played some rhythm on this one too.
He just had a kid, so you know he had to bow out. Yeah.
Now that's Italian. You guys are both Italians, right?
We got Tres Italianos. What's the word for a 3 in Italian?
I don't know. We're Guinea Wops. That's all I know.
Well, we're all like half Guinea Wops, so like we got 1.5 between us. It's completely Guinea Wop.
I got this great spaghetti sauce I can show you. You know
You
what I
guys
mean?
grow up in the Catholic Church and were altar boys. Do they do that?
Oh boy, I could tell you. But yeah, I did the whole thing. The whole thing.
It's
I
a
had
great
the-
story, actually. He's got a cool little.
but I'm not going to tell it to you.
It's
But
a positive one.
Oh, okay.
But no, it was great. I mean, you know.
I was an altar boy too, in the Orthodox Church.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
That's some
But you know,
serious
there's a certain point where I'm looking around, the collection plates going around. I'm like 7,
Right.
and I'm thinking like, the guy doesn't have enough money. What's going on here? So I mean, you know, automatically the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus from North Africa. I mean, I don't know, but to me, there was some questions I had. You know what I mean? But as far as a foundation, it was great. You know, the you know community getting together every Sunday. You know, hugging the neighbor thing. I mean, I'm down. You know, it's cool. If they could figure out a way to do it without like having an idea about like what happened a long ass time ago that nobody really knows, then I'd be down.
Family, food, and fornication.
That would never work. My situation was a little different, but he had a positive Catholic situation. I mean, it wasn't all bad, you know, unless you had Father Filiap, and that guy wasn't cool. So, but I
We
came
don't
from
talk about that.
Yeah, but I.
It's all right.
well,
It's all right. It's all right.
Catholics don't talk about that. Episcopalians start blast. That's what I was.
Oh, okay.
Catholic light, right? That's what Eddie Izzard called it. It's Catholic light, which is true. So there's a bunch of hypocrites, and I saw that at a very young age and formed everything that started Forbidden Evil for me was like all formed in church, and just the the hypocrisy and watching people completely be full of shit 6 days a week and then coming in on Sunday and then like it's just paying a little tithe and vestry meeting with wine and pastry. It was ridiculous at 5, 6, 7 years old like him. I was like, so we're not really religious per se, we're just spiritual.
Now you recorded the album where?
That's a good question.
You go ahead. You take this one.
A couple places. First of all, we didn't even bring Eric into this, but for a short time when I got in the band, Eric Kress from STP was playing drums, which was pretty cool, right?
He's one of the many
I
drummers.
thought that was pretty cool. I was just like, damn, that's a guy from STP right there.
amazing.
Forget about it. So, but shortly thereafter, I mean, other projects and whatnot, and, he lives in LA and just didn't work out. But he remained very close and cool, and,
He's a good friend.
Yeah.
He's a very good friend of the band.
Fast forward, he's got a recording studio. You feel what I'm saying, down in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
So we went down there, we did the drums, and what was great was the Wallflowers was doing their record at the time. They had gone to, I think, was it South America, or they were somewhere on tour, but all their gear was there. So you had all this vintage, keyboards and just all this cool stuff, Hammond B3 and the real stuff. So we're like, can we use this stuff? And Eric's like, I don't know, let's call. So he called them up, and they said, cool. And we ended up using their keyboards and some of their vintage stuff on the record, which, Brad plays a big part on the record.
Brad is a huge part of it. It was like he was in heaven as far as a guy who plays keys to have so many options, like the real Hammond, the real Rhodes, the real. It was a baby grand, but it was a grand, and that's what you hear in Exit 63. It's just a great. That slightly real but slightly out of tune thing that's so cool about a real piano.
Wow. But it's real, you know what I mean? It's not just a keyboard that, you change a patch on. It was actually like the mics and the big, and huge studio too, right? Just like a gymnasium, if you will, and just a huge, it was great.
It's a 6,000, we did the drums in a room, or a studio 6,000 square feet and 2,000 plus our drum room. but it's got an 18-foot ceiling on top of that. So, and it's all brick walls. But you know, the sad part of this story is
Slayer did a record there.
Slayer, no, everyone's actually what happened is Slayer recorded there, but they did the what is his name? The guy from Black Flag.
Greg Ginn?
No, Henry Rollins show.
Greg
the Henry
Ginn?
Rollins show was all.
Oh, I know that's somebody else. Never mind.
Henry Rollins show was always recorded there, at the bomb shelter. But anyway, the sad part of this story is we did all the drums there, and then he sold the fucking place to Skrillex.
Yay, Skrillex!
It just broke my heart. But you know, Eric's got all the gear and everything. But it was his dream to have that place, and we used it. And I think the drums, getting that room sound, just a little bit of that real stuff on, the Neve console, and it just made it great there. And then the rest of it's all done up here, where Brad and Tim have their studio, Audio Voyage / Sonic Room, and we did everything else here. And we have our own home base where we practice, record. Tim and Brad produce other projects there, but it's nice to have it all here. But the rumor is that we did it all in 16 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know how that.
Sounds good though.
Yeah. Well, the drums got recorded very quickly, and then everything else was coming home and getting the time to do it. But the way we record, and the reason why people get that vibe off it, is because we don't go back and fix things. We just, the way Tim likes to do it is just have your shit together, lay your track down once, maybe twice, and get the fuck out, and that's that.
Well, and with the
great performance,
with the advent of Pro Tools, what has happened is people have gone crazy with getting everything
lined up,
just so tight that it's almost impossible to duplicate it live. You know what I mean? You hear some of these records and you almost kind of laugh. You're like, yeah, let me see it live. You know what I mean? And but we don't have that luxury. Tim has it. We ask him for it. We'll say, hey, could you fix that for me in the mix? No, do it again. Damn it. So
yeah, pretty much.
We end up having to play everything pretty much live, and he likes the stuff out of tune. He likes the things that got the vibe. It's like, I think I was a little behind on that part. He's like, perfect, I love it. Well, you're like, really?
Yeah.
But you hear it back, and then you're like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. You don't want it too perfect. You want it organic. You want it to, feel like it's got leaves on it and, some dirt, and you know what I mean? Not just a square little perfect cube of
that's what he just pretty much summed up. What we're here to kind of do is to kind of be that dirtier.
We're fuzzy.
Yeah, like I say, to kind of
organic, maybe
organic. Yeah, but just being some representatives for that, like ambassadors for that kind of rock. It's like,
they didn't have that back then, right? Led Zeppelin wasn't sitting there going, "Hey, could you squeeze that?"
They would have. Though.
Well,
they would have if they had that option.
But they didn't. That's what makes that music. Everybody goes, well, why? What was so special? What was, where's the magic? And
Zeppelin's a different thing. Zeppelin, okay.
It was jammy, but I mean, you could still, you know what I'm saying? That whole
But they
era.
track like crazy. Like they would put mixing boards together to try to get as many layers going as possible. That's how Jimmy Page covered up his fuck-ups.
Right.
By just putting another track on top, more reverb, I mean, there's a way he did it, more room mics, more this, that vibe, but it's vibe is the point, right? We can talk about this for hours.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. We're trying, and it's going to get better. This band's going to get better at that as we go.
So you have and you did it yourselves. You're the self-produced album, no?
Tim is the
man.
He's the guy behind the wheel. We of course all have our 2 cents that we throw in, and some maybe 3.
How do you?
Yeah, at times, everybody gets a larger say, but Tim's taking it like I said, this White Witch Canyon tour, when I was doing Forbidden, he gained a lot more insight as to what he thought we should really turn into as a band. Someone's got to do it. Best be your singer, because I've been in situations where the other guys did it like me, right. and I do like it better when your singer has a vision. It makes the band better. It makes the lyrics mean more. It makes everyone feel like they can definitely look at somebody and relate to them, as opposed to the guy next to him. You know what I mean? But we're all, Tim and I started this thing as what it started as and what it turned into are 2 different things, but it's cool because we both were such strong personalities and visionaries, and I fucking couldn't be happier with the way that this album turned out, because somebody actually had an idea, somebody had a whole idea for a record. That doesn't happen that much, so it's cool.
9 tracks and Tomorrow's Dream.
Tomorrow's Dream. Yeah, that was another one of those things. We threw a bunch of cover songs around one day, and the next day we came back and did it pretty much, right? Or a couple of days later.
The record was already done. The deal was done. And they're like, hey, you guys want to do a cover? And I think what they put out, Thin Lizzy, I think is what they suggested, and we're like,
I don't know if anyone really suggests. Maybe there's.
that's what I heard.
I didn't hear anything about.
Little Bird told me they were they suggested some Thin Lizzy, and we're like, why not some Sabbath? And we threw what we have up like 4 or 5 songs.
Supernaut was like came down to one of the ones.
I threw Johnny Blade out there.
I like that one.
It got shot down.
Yeah, this would be good for a band like us, because our Brad can do all that.
But
no problem.
Tomorrow's Dream turned out to be
Simple.
Yeah, and it kind of reflects. Everybody talks about Sabbath influence, and Sabbath was more than those 3 songs: Electric Funeral, War
Iron
Pigs,
Man.
and it's just
Paranoid.
So they had more of a diverse sound than just what some of these bands that claim the Sabbath kind of flag had. And I think we just kind of claim some of the other songs. You know what I mean?
We're obscure.
Exactly.
We're the obscure band.
Technical Ecstasy.
Yeah, never say die, technical ecstasy, all that stuff. Volume 4, of course. And, well, the good thing about that song too is it was so simple that for us, the kind of players where you just close our eyes, do it, and then the keyboards came into the middle section where it was never there before. Sorry, I just touched your fuzzy thing. But the keyboards, I was imagining what we did, but it was great because Brad really improvised something. Like we were just all sitting around and just go, kind of like everyone's got their hands out. It was great because I think what he did, that little, how many seconds? 15, 20 seconds to me. It's one of the most beautiful parts in the whole album. Just that little passage where he adds his parts to the great bridge in that song.
I have no idea what you're talking about.